Lord, we're grateful to gather on behalf of your calling for New Dawn. We thank you for your heart for marginalized, disadvantaged, orphaned youth. We thank you for your heart for widows that have lost a spouse and are struggling. And we thank you that you hear the prayers all over the world. And as these individuals in East Africa were praying so many years ago, you touched our heart to be part of the solution, to help them and to visit them in their distress.
Mhm.
So we ask you now, God, to bless our time together and that it would be fruitful and encouraging and challenging.
Mhm.
So lead us and guide us in our gathering together on the Zoom call. And we pray it in Jesus' name.
Mhm.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so Russ Henderson, one of our board members, is going to open us up. And so, Russ, take it away.
Great. Well, before we begin, I wanted to say thank you. Many of you who are listening to this are some of our greatest and most consistent supporters of New Dawn. You're standing in the gap for orphan youth in East Africa. And, many of you earlier this year when Ron asked for urgent help for the Tanzania location, many of you, despite everything that's going on in the economy and your personal lives, you stepped up and you answered the call. We raised over an additional $20,000 for Tanzania and closed a critical shortfall. Thank you for your love and generosity. What you do really makes a difference. Because of you, kids are once again focused on their studies and winning choir competitions instead of worrying about what's in the cupboard to eat. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. Thank you from our staff and teachers in country. And most importantly, thank you from the teenagers in East Africa that we all love so much. As Ron said, my name is Russ Henderson. I'm a board member here with New Dawn. I'm obviously here with someone who doesn't need an introduction, Ron Sukit, the founder and president of New Dawn. I would not be a good board member if I did not take every opportunity to remind everyone at every opportunity that donations are both really needed and always appreciated. However, despite what you may be thinking, today is not really about asking for money. Today, our purpose is threefold. First, we want to share with you today our greatest need, which is more friends like you. Secondly, we want to show you what our current plans are to introduce New Dawn to new people and get your feedback. And finally, and most importantly, we want to ask that you pray for us and help us find potential new friends with New Dawn's story and their mission. What started out is a small project born out of World Christian Outreach and a couple of churches in San Clemente and Napa, California. Thanks to all of you, has now grown. We have provided life-changing and life-saving care to over 1,000 orphans in East Africa. There are over 600 graduates from our junior high and high school to date. If we're going to continue to serve these precious youth in East Africa, New Dawn is going to need more. More prayers, more connections, more donors, more board members, more volunteers, and especially more wisdom. In short, more friends like you. All of these new people will need to hear the New Dawn story. This is how we intend to introduce new friends to New Dawn. This online event is the first of a series where we will share the New Dawn community story with anyone who is interested. Just like today, people will learn about New Dawn's story and mission. They can ask questions and give us feedback. For people, groups, and companies that would like to know more and have a more one-on-one experience, we will be doing a number of in-person home meetings coffee meetings, and presentations to groups. Finally, we've also created a print piece that shares our story and mission that is available in either paper form or PDF electronically. Ron has already had a good response in multiple places with this piece. Now, we would like to have Ron share this new print piece with you that you'll see on the screen right now, and we'll talk about it. Ron?
Thanks, Russ. So another church that we should mention, there's actually two other churches that we should mention that came to be a significant help and encouragement and partnership with New Dawn was a church out in Moreno Valley, California. And this was the church that Stan Herpick attended. And that church really was probably the initial anchor for World Christian Outreach's efforts to East Africa. And then because of those relationships, we were able to introduce New Dawn then to Cornerstone Community Church, and then up into Napa. Well, we have a new church that just came on up in Sandpoint, Idaho, called Mountain Springs Church. And Tracy here, I'm going to just show you Tracy, was really the spearhead to getting an introduction meeting with Diane and I so that we could tell them more about New Dawn. And they decided this week to go ahead and start supporting New Dawn $500 a month and allow us a little bit of opportunity to share New Dawn with the congregation. So in order to make introduction, you need to have a little something to hand out. And so we've had in the past brochures and flyers and so we just put together a brand new introduction piece that is meant to help anybody that knows about New Dawn use this as an introduction tool to help them answer questions and make a confident, adequate introduction of New Dawn to that person in their network or family or friends. What you see on the screen here is the cover page of this piece that has been honed down from our previous piece that was about 12 pages down to 8 pages now. And this has been carefully crafted. We've prayed over and dialogued over every story, every sentence, and this is what we've come up with. And we felt like if we just went through this briefly with you, it would give you a feel for how this introduction tool is meant to be used. So on our cover page, we have our New Dawn logo. Many of you guys might even know Scott Bailey, who helped with the graphic design and even made a video with us back even before we had a school back in 2001, maybe 2002. New Dawn Communities. We felt like it would be important to just include under the logo that we're established in 2005 so that it gives a sense of the longevity of our ministry. And then to the right-hand side, we just basically describe what New Dawn is, and we articulate it as a loving home and high school for orphans. And when we were founding New Dawn, we knew that it was going to be centered on education, but it was much more than a high school. So we didn't call it New Dawn High School, we called it New Dawn Communities. And that's why we start with a loving home, because many of these kids that have lost one or both of their parents are coming from a very difficult home and family situation that's hindering them. Our goal is equipping the neglected to reach their God-given potential. And we say it this way because we're not trying to mold them into what we want them to be or think they should be. We want them to be free and healthy to grow into what God has created them to be. As we turn the page, we go to page 2 and we just articulate the problem. So the cover is basically our purpose. The second page is the problem. And we have a story here about Mary, and really you could almost interview any of our kids and get a real heart moving testimony of how vulnerable they really were in their growing up years. So they're too old to stay in the orphanages, but they're too young to really support themselves. And unfortunately, they're susceptible to a lot of bad, negative stuff. And so the story about Mary is, just a typical story. You can read it for yourself. And then we move on to the solution, which basically is God's people joining together in a partnership to provide an orphan like Mary and all the others a place to belong, be cared for, and to heal. So then we come to the introduction of really the core of New Dawn Community, and this probably would be our vision statement or our purpose statement. And we articulate this starting right off the bat as a Christ-centered community within an indigenous culture, because it's Jesus that has called us into it. This is his work. And the real emphasis is not on just satisfying temporary needs, but the transformation of our kids that are in our community. The emphasis that we place on our pillars is very systematic, and it's a graduated effort. It starts with spiritual formation. We want to see these kids come into a personal relationship with the Lord and grow in their sanctification and Christ-centeredness. That develops into character development. Then they are in an academic environment that is meant to inspire them, um, uh, vocational training, because they're actually living in a community. They have to participate in so much of the community um, activities such as farming, raising animals, maintenance, cleaning, helping one another. And one of the unique things about New Dawn is that we know of and appreciate the hundreds and thousands of Christian ministries all over the world that are providing many of these needs that these kids have, that people have. But oftentimes a ministry will just focus on bringing water, or just focus on bringing clothes, or providing food, or providing education, providing medical treatment. But because we're bringing these kids into a home and they're becoming family, we have to treat them like family members. And so we have to provide it all.
Mhm.
And so each community provides what every child should have. And that's a sanctuary, a place to belong and be accepted, a place of stability so that they don't have to worry about things changing all the time and they can really learn and grow. Place of inspiration. We're always quick to emphasize worship and prayer, place to hope and dream again, and an opportunity of training and service.
I think that's really what sets New Dawn apart from other organizations is that we look at the whole person. We're not solving one point solution or one point problem, which are desperately needed and are totally valuable. However, we're taking orphans that literally have nothing. You go back to that before picture of a kid that's studying under a street light because there's no lighting, but he has no home to go to either. So he doesn't know if he's going to eat. What we do is we don't only provide food and clothing, shelter, security, a safe place to be, healing, counseling, and then we add that a parent would provide, but that they are missing. But then we provide what's going on in the community as well. We provide them with a secondary education. We get them ready for college. If they're not college bound, we give them vocational skills that they can use to start a business or make money and support their own family. So we're kind of a 360-degree support system that both a parent that they're missing and a community that would normally support them would have. So we have the whole thing, if you will.
Beautiful, Russ. We felt like it'd be good to take a whole page on the next page to talk about why we prioritize these. One page back, Russ. And one of the things that our freshman kids that get accepted into our community experience right off the bat is the academic education aspect of it. They're coming to get educated, and uh, the emphasis on education is something that we intend to set a high standard of education, which is well above the national standard. And it's exceptional, and it allows our kids to really do good in their testing and achievement. So when we emphasize academic education to the degree that we do, this molds them to be a knowledgeable person. And in the real culture that these kids are going into, knowledge truly is power, and they become well equipped with their knowledge. We then have invited them into an environment of integrity. All of our teachers, all of our staff, all are believers. They're all godly. They're all exceptional human beings. And so we model this integrity for each student, which inspires them to be a good person. We all know very educated people that are not good people. And so we endeavor to help them grow in their character. Because they're in a community, we expose them to relevant jobs that will be helpful for those that perhaps are not college bound or university bound. And this equips them to be capable persons. We engage each student in service opportunities. We'll go out into the towns and villages and just do little things that help them to pass on the generosity that they're experiencing. And then ultimately, through all of these 4 years, and then even some when they come back afterwards for some additional mentoring, we introduce them to Jesus, who is the one who transforms them to be a godly person. Because of the environment that they're in, it is inspiring, it is stable, it is inspirational. And so we're seeing that our students are excelling in many different areas, but three areas that we highlight in our book are scholastically, because we're in really the top 10 percentile of our schools in our region, and in many cases nationally. We're also excelling athletically. Our kids are so used to living with one another. They think like a team, they operate like a team. And so that really helps them on the athletic field. And so in basketball and volleyball and soccer, many other different um, fields of competition they're excelling in. And then perhaps the most uh, notoriety that we get of any of the excellence that we're exhibiting is in our artistic realm of music and dance and choir. And so we do take our choir and our band around from competition to competition nationally, and we are on a national level at New Dawn. And even the president herself of Tanzania and wanted our school choir to come and sing uh, before her as she dedicated a water project with just a little bit earlier this year. So all of that to say, we come to the real point now of why we're even doing this, and that's how you can help. So, of course, we've all been praying, and God has answered dramatically the prayers that we have prayed. But when it comes to giving, sometimes we only focus on the money part of it. But what we really need now is to expand our donor base. And so, what we need is an invitation from you. You guys have given sacrificially, and so we're not going to ask that of you. What we would like for you to do is prayerfully consider, is there somebody in your family, your friends, or your network that might be interested to hear about New Dawn? And this is why we created this uh, introduction piece, so that you could have it either on your computer in PDF or a hard copy. And we're going through the brochure so that you can see that there's rhyme and reason to it. And that if you just simply sit with somebody and just go through, it will lead you into a significant discussion about what New Dawn is. And as Russ said earlier, we want to just schedule these meetings once a month and make ourselves available to anybody that would like to find out more about New Dawn. And it really doesn't matter if it's one person or 10, but we'd like to make an effort to be available to meet people, answer any questions, um, assure people maybe that we're for real. And so that's part of what our next effort is with these Zoom meetings. And that allows you to say, hey, you can meet our guys and you don't even have to leave your living room. You can meet them in your pajamas if you want to. Um, the next page is our leadership. And these are just all a bunch of really good guys, but just regular old good guys. And Winston's probably the most handsome of them all. And then we just felt like we should put some of our milestones on the back page. And we have 100 milestones that have been significant answers of prayer and huge, um, uh, real obvious God intervention stories. But we just put these basic ones here to give us a start to talk about what we've been doing for 25 years. So now this is a time for question and answers. Does that bring up anything that you might want to ask about?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. Ron, what's the start date and end date for each school for the school year?
In East Africa, the school year follows the British model, and it starts in mid-January. So our kids basically are coming from a Christmas celebration for those that are growing up in a Christmas or a Christian atmosphere. In Tanzania, many of our kids are coming from Muslim families. And so we start the year with a introduction. And what do you call when you get somebody kind of acquainted with the environment? There's a
Orientation.
Climatized.
something like that. It'll come to me. Orientation.
Hmm.
That's the word I was looking for.
Hmm.
Many of these kids are actually coming from such poor situations that they don't know how to use a modern toilet. They don't know how to. I mean, it's just they wouldn't know how to use a little cupboard because they never had a cupboard. Some of them don't even know how to make a bed because they've never had a bed. Uh, some of them don't speak English, and so we try to help them with an introduction to English because we want them to be proficient in English by the time they graduate. And then our school year starts towards the end of January and it concludes in the end of November, first weekend in December. So Diane and I are actually planning right now to go to the graduation in Tanzania and also visit our school in Kenya this year. So we're going to be leaving the end of November through early part of December.
Are those dates then consistent between both Tanzania and Kenya?
Yeah, all of the schools in East Africa and the majority of the schools really in Africa are on that.
How many students are graduating this year from each school?
We have 36 kids in our senior class in Tanzania, and we have about 24 in our senior class in Kenya. And so each year, no, we actually do. We have 36 in Kenya as well. So that is 72.
72, yeah.
And the reason why we have 36 is because that's the size of our class. And it seems a little bit large on American standards, but these indigenous cultures are really used to having a minimum of 40 and oftentimes up to 60 kids in one class with one teacher. So that's one of the reasons why our school stands out so much is because we limit the number of students and we also have teacher aides and all sorts of additional things that help the kids learn academically. Any other questions?
Nice.
You, Tracy, if you got a question.
So you may be thinking as we're asking for questions, well, what do I do? What can I do? What's next? So, to kind of sum it up, we've got three tools that we want to use. These meetings that are happening on a regular basis online that you can, if somebody has interest, you can ask them to join the next meeting and get the information, or go on to our website and see this recording. The second is the in-person meetings for people who are really interested and want a one-on-one experience and ask deeper questions. And then the brochure, the 8-pager that this one here on screen that we've just gone through. Our prayer today and our ask today is that can you help introduce New Dawn to new friends? And so, well, how does that happen? So we mentioned prayer before. First we're asking that you pray the Lord would reveal his will for New Dawn and that he would bless New Dawn and our supporters greatly as we do the good works that he has prepared for us in advance. Do you have room to put New Dawn and are supporting family members on your prayer list or prayer chain. That would be one thing. More volunteers. How many of you have heard from Leah and made contact with her? Are you the type of person that loves to connect with people and have some hours in your week to help thank and bless our donors? How about administrative help? If you're not as much of a people person and you're more of a task person, you could help working from home with our student bio cards for our new growing student population. There's always need there. If your schedule's full, don't have any time, you know someone who has the time and would love to spend some of that free time serving alongside of us. More wisdom. Do you know someone or someone that they know have an experience in nonprofit organizations and fundraising? We'd love to benefit from your experience on top of ours. More connections. The bottom line at the end of the day is that New Dawn is at the intersection of the character and person of Jesus Christ, number one. Number two, East African countries like Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda. And third, the love and life-altering empowerment of orphaned and forgotten teens. Those three things, right in the center of that Venn diagram, is where we are. So thinking about that, Jesus Christ, East Africa, love of orphans. Do you know someone who might want to hear about New Dawn? Can you introduce them with a brochure or just invite them to this meeting? We plan on doing these meetings the first Sunday of each month at 4 p.m. The next one would be Sunday, October 5th. And it's the same link that got you here today, or it's on the website if you've lost it. And we're doing them at 4 p.m. Pacific time. We want to, please, at the end, will give us some feedback. Let us know if that's a good time or you think another time would be better. Does your church have a missions program? Can you introduce us to the right people or invite them to this call? Do you meet in a small group Bible study, civic or networking group, or just a get together with friends? Would they agree to a short introduction to New Dawn? You may not know anyone, but it may be a person you introduced that also introduced someone who introduced someone that led us to a friend just like you. So those are some ideas. Thank you very much for attending. If anyone has some extra time, we'd love to answer any questions and get your unvarnished feedback on what we're doing. Does the first Sunday at 4 p.m. make sense? What do you think, Wendell?
Winston.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that should make sense. Depending on time zones and what they have going on Sunday afternoons. I mean, being a pastor, sometimes Sunday afternoons get a little busy with
Mhm.
events, but I think it's good. It's the Lord's Day. We're trying to do the Lord's work,
Mhm.
so why not?
What do you think about the brochure? Does it hit the right points? Is it accessible to someone who's not an expert in New Dawn? Is there anything that's missing from it that you wish would be there?
No, I think it's simple, but it's moving. You know, it gives you the facts, but it's not overwhelming. So I think I like it. I think it's a really, really good way to share what God's been doing over the last 20 years. Hit on some big points, hit on some specific numbers that are needed to continue, and share what the actual mission is and what God's been doing in these different areas of development. I think it's amazing.
Thank you. We're going to and you may not be a person that is excited about sitting down with other people and talking. And we would be more than happy to fill that role. If all we're looking for at this point is an introduction. You may be the person. I know several of them that love to connect this person to that person to this person. I tend to be less of that. So it's always handy to have other people who are experts, kind of, do it. So either way, if you want to be the person that does the introductions or you just want to introduce to us and let us do the work, we'd be happy to do that.
Sounds
That's
good.
great. Maybe another question that might come up would be financial. And so, how we come up with our donation schedule is very simple. We have just for 25 years ran these communities. And we started by faith. We didn't really know what we were doing. We just felt like God said, build a home for my kids and bring them in. So we brought the homeless poor into the house and started telling people about the mission and the endeavor. And lots of people contributed. And there's a handful of core people that really dig very deep and underwrite it when there's a shortage. But essentially, it costs us about $200,000 a year to run one of these schools, and that covers all of the um, care for the kids. It covers their uniforms, it covers their school books, it covers their supplies, their notebooks, their pens, pencils, and all. It covers their bed, their bedding. It covers the electricity and the water. It covers the food. It covers the staff. We've got 8, 10 teachers that take care of our 150 kids in our communities. Um, we have staff that takes care of the animals. We have staff that takes care of the farming. We have staff that takes care of the maintenance. We have staff that takes care of the security to make sure that the kids are safe. And so by the time we take care of 150 kids for a year and try to meet all of their needs, I mean, we do hygiene for the boys and the girls. We even do medical. Some of our kids get sick, and instead of uh, the kind of regular response or reaction in a high school in East Africa of if a kid gets ill and needs medical attention, they just send them away. And because they're a school, they're not a community. Well, at New Dawn, we're a family. And so when one of our kids get ill, we take them to the clinic. And we've had 2 instances where the clinic wasn't enough, and we had to take our 2 different kids to Dar es Salaam, the capital, to the best hospital to have intestinal surgery on one to correct a very chronic problem and heart surgery on the other. Literally, these kids' lives were saved because they were at New Dawn and not just going to some high school somewhere else. So when we take what it costs to run a community like this and just divide it by 150 kids, we come up with $125 a month. That's $1,500 a year, $6,000 for 4 years, and a high school diploma, which can get them to college or university. And the way I look at it, that is a real charitable bargain. I mean, and those are real figures. A lot of ministries don't get into that kind of detail when they're asking for donations, but New Dawn is a very real community with very real kids and very real staff and very real needs. So,
And Ron, in
yes,
alignment with the cost of running a school like this and a community like this, um, we've run up against where the country, or I guess you just say it's the country that makes you come in
Component.
compliant with things like, for instance, the gas that we had to install so that you're not cutting down all the trees and such. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, each country has a degree of sophistication uh, in their departments or ministries. But in Tanzania, they're a little bit more sophisticated even than in Kenya. And one of the things that they have decided as a government department is that the schools must transition from using wood for cooking and heating to gas system. So in order to comply with that, New Dawn had to just recently install a gas system. And that gas system was $15,000. By God's grace, God just moved on somebody's heart and they said, you know what, I can't do some of the bigger stuff, but that's something that we could do. And so we've had people who have donated money for cars and trucks and tractors and build buildings and dig wells. Um, so those are a little bit more capital expenditures beyond the care of the kids. And our next big hurdle is that it is required of a government approved school to have an administrative facility for the faculty and the staff. And so right now, because we've just been doing the best we can, we just have plywood partitions up in our assembly hall for our staff to meet in. And they're content in it, but it's not, it's something that we're needing to comply with. So an administrative building, for instance, is $100,000. But can you imagine building a brand new administrative building in America for $100,000? And then, of course, then this provides jobs for the community and the villagers, um, and it creates vision and hope and enthusiasm for the surrounding communities. New Dawn basically has put this rural region in both in Kenya and in Tanzania on the map. The areas that we're in, we literally have drawn national acclaim and attention because our school just draws attention. These are great uh, uh, improvements to the communities, even though we're putting our schools in smaller villages. People in big towns know about them because they're bringing their kids from their school to play soccer on our soccer field. And a lot of schools don't have soccer fields, but we have one. And a lot of kids marvel at the fact that our dormitories are so nice and our assembly halls and our classrooms are so great. And um, so another thing that we need is we need transportation. We need a bus. I mean, right now we just make do with whatever we can find to get our kids from our competitions, but it would be really great to have a couple of vans or a bus. Um, Another thing that we're hoping to do is we'd like to add two more classes of advanced high school or secondary education because what we send our kids out with their 4-year diploma qualifies them to go to colleges, trade schools, or just move on with the satisfaction of having graduated from high school. But in order to go to university, they have to have an additional 2 years, and that's part of the educational system in Tanzania. What we have to do now is we have to send our kids who have been in this environment, this amazing environment, just out to any place out there that has these 2 additional years. in a sense, probably what this would be like a community college for us over here. It would be like kids graduating from high school going to get an AA degree at one of the community colleges that allow them then to go on to university. And so one of the things we need to do is we need to modify the dormitories. We have enough space under our roofs and rooms, but we need to modify those spaces to bring in another two classes of kids. And we're going to need additional teachers. We're going to need additional classrooms. And those classrooms are blocks of four. The building cost would probably be about $80,000 for them because they're not quite as sophisticated as a dormitory or an admin building or whatever. And these are the things that we're projecting to. We also have a relationship with some people in Uganda that are begging us to build a new dawn in Uganda. And these people in Uganda have so much faith. When we met them back in 2003, and we've gone back several times to do conferences and assemblies and different things. These people had so much faith that they started an elementary school years ago, believing that if we built a new dawn in Kenya and then we built another one in Tanzania, that it just made spiritual sense to them that God would lead us to build one in Uganda. So they started this elementary school with the faith and anticipation that when those kids had gone through all 7 years or 8 years of their primary education, that by the time their kids started graduating and going into high school, we would be at a place where we could build them a new dawn. And so that's been several years now that they've been ready for a new dawn. Not only that, the main family that we had ministered in their area for years actually sent one of their kids to school to get a teaching degree because they wanted to be prepared when New Dawn started that they could give one of their kids to be a teacher in the school. So these are some of the things that we have laid out before us. And all of these things are absolutely impossible with man. But we believe with God all things are possible. And but the need of the moment and to be good and faithful stewards is that although we have vision to go further, we have a commitment to these kids right now in Kenya and Tanzania. And so all of those expansion plans and hopes and dreams are just hopes and dreams right now because we need to take care of our kids in Tanzania. And we believe that you are a key to helping us expand our donor base, go beyond the amazing, faithful core group of people that have helped us to get to this point, and that if we all begin to start to introduce New Dawn to other people, then those people will be joyful in having a ministry like this to get involved with, participate with, pray for kids, go to New Dawn with us and meet the staff and the students. And it'll lighten the load for the rest of us who are bearing the lion's share of this ministry. And so take this to heart and just pray. The field is white with harvest, and pray therefore to the God of the harvest that he'd send laborers into the field. And maybe God will show you how to be a laborer or who you can invite to come into the field.
Great.